and welcome to the Fourth Mind AI podcast, number 2. And in this podcast, I'm interviewing Bradley Benner, one of the world leading SEO experts. And here is a summary of the podcast that you're about to see or hear. So we talk about from keyword to topic optimization in SEO, then the understanding the difference between keywords and topics, which is so relevant in the last 6 months, optimizing for semantic web, backlinks as validation signals, and now we get into a little bit of a discussion about adapting to generative search in Google. And by the way, this is part 1 of the video. We're going to do a series on this. Pruning content to prevent keyword cannibalization. And here's a summary. This was an incredibly enjoyable podcast. We covered a lot of topics. This is part 1. And if you like this summary that's put together, it literally took me 5 minutes to put this summary together in the format that you see here. So I'm going to create another video on how to create summaries just like what you see here. This is a web page or a PDF that I'll mail out to everyone to get them to watch the podcast. So now on with the podcast. Bradley Benner, it's so good to have you here, mate. First of all, it's an AI SEO podcast, so I thought I'd do what I typically do, which is ask AI to create an intro for you. And so what I discovered, like literally 20 minutes ago, is Google Bard is terrible. It came up with nothing. I tested this after our last conversation because I knew we were going to do a podcast. So I asked ChatGPT 4 and it was epic. So this time I did it again with ChatGPT 4, but used the Bing plugin. And it was too epic. There was too much information about you. So I copied and pasted the relevant information into a text file, and it goes like this. Bradley Benner is a senior partner and member on the board of directors of Semantic Mastery, a company that specializes in SEO and semantic web optimization and digital marketing solutions. Benner's career began in the technical trades industry, where he became a certified electrician at the age of 19, spent 4 years in the electrical and communications industry before making a significant career shift. In addition to his consulting work, Benner has taken on the role of teacher and coach. He regularly holds private and group training sessions, teaching others, including other local marketers and content marketers, on how to achieve results with their online marketing activities and how to successfully navigate the semantic web. And he and the other Semantic Mastery senior partners host a weekly digital Q&A called Hump Day Hangouts, which I watch and I love, live streamed via Google Hangouts. Their YouTube channel is a treasure trove of useful SEO resources covering a range of topics from current curation to drive stacking. So there you go, Bradley. Welcome to the podcast.
Well, thanks, man. Thanks for having me.
So last time we got together, we had a general chat about where the hell we are with SEO and AI. And you came up with a lot of interesting points about the current state of SEO and what's really working. And since our conversation, Google's generative search has gone into beta. I don't have access to it yet, but some people do, which means it's just around the corner. So maybe we can talk about that later on. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on the current state of SEO and what's working and what's not. If you can continue on from where we were last time.
Sure. Yeah. So for me, I think that, I've been in the SEO industry now since 2010. So about 13 years. And it's crazy, but I've seen more of a shift in the algorithm the last 6 or 8 months than I've seen in my entire career as an SEO. And that is, Google's really kind of shifted away from a keyword-based algorithm to a topic-based algorithm. And I'm seeing that more and more, again, as through my own agency as well as through some of my white label services, I have access to just an enormous amount of data, and I analyze, competitor profiles all the time, or for local SEO, because that's all I pretty much do is local SEO. And so, in analyzing competitors for my white label clients as well as for my own agency clients, and my white label agencies actually, I serve far more clients through my white label agencies than I do through my own local SEO agency. And through that process of just kind of analyzing backlink profiles and an on-site structure and all that of so many different sites, and both my client sites as well as the competitors, I just have access to a ton of data, and I'm seeing how the algorithm has shifted so much it's almost unrecognizable. And it's a subtle shift in that it doesn't seem on the surface that much has changed, but when you kind of get into the data, a lot has changed. In other words, and I'll explain if I have time. I'd like to explain kind of how I discovered this too. But keywords is what we had always kind of been optimizing for as SEOs, and we can still optimize for keywords. And I'll explain what I mean here in a minute. But if we optimize for keywords versus topics or entities, then we are actually significantly reducing our ability to produce results, or for a page to rank for as many keywords as it possibly could, because essentially a topic is there's a group of keywords associated with a topic. Okay. And if you optimize for entities or for the topic itself, and entities and topics can be interchangeable in this context, in that I think it's easier for people to grasp or understand topics than it is entities. Okay. So it's kind of just a way to make it more understandable, easier to comprehend. But if you optimize for topics, then you can essentially rank a page for all of the keywords associated with that topic, or any combination of keywords or search queries that would be associated with that topic.
Are we talking about local SEO here or general SEO?
Well, general, the law or rule applies in either case.
Gotcha. Perfect.
So it's about, there's several. I mean, again, I've got so many things I want to cover here about how much the nuances of the changes that I've seen within the algorithm, and starting with topics and entities. And so what I mean by that is, SEO titles are incredibly important. Document titles. There's a few optimization points. The URL is the first thing Google sees, right? Before it crawls a page. It sees the URL first because that's how it finds the page. Then the next thing it sees is the SEO title, then the meta description. Then it goes into basically the H1, which are also considered titles. So the H1 is the page title, right? So there's a meta title or SEO title, but then there's the page title, which is an H1. And then there's headings, which are H2s, and then subheadings, which are H3s, etc. So I call those kind of all titles. And so you have the URL, the SEO meta title, meta description, H1, and then you have the rest of the titles or headings on the page, and then media and things like that. So those are what I call the biggest optimization points. Those are the biggest levers that we can pull in SEO as far as on-page optimization. And for the last 10 years in my career, or 13 years in my career, we've always optimized for keywords. We would find out what is the broadest keyword with the most search volume, et cetera. And we would usually optimize a page for that particular phrase. And then we would, through site structure, silo architecture, et cetera, within the site itself, we would kind of create a hierarchy of content, supporting content, with the top level page being the broadest keyword term generally that we would want to rank for. And then so we would create, and for years, this was best practice as far as stacking content, right? Or structuring content within a site. So we take the top level term, the broadest term with the highest search volume, and optimize our top level page for that, and then create a category or a silo structure with that being the top of the silo, okay, or TOS, top of the silo. And then we would go grab all the supporting keywords, so longer tailed versions of that keyword, that keyword with additional modifiers, et cetera. And we would produce supporting content that we would place within that category. And then through internal linking, so a contextual link within the content body linking up to that top level page, et cetera, we could start to create this kind of hierarchy so that when Google would come to crawl the site, it could understand the content and kind of the concepts and the topics that we were trying to promote within the site. And if done well, that would work. I'm sorry.
Sorry, just on that point, last time we were talking, what really made sense to me was how you described that creating sites that allow Googlebot to be as efficient as possible,
Correct.
to remove as much work as possible from discovering the important content on the site is, and like when you said it to me last time, like I've always known that, but it just kind of really cemented in the importance of the structure of the site
Yeah.
itself. Sorry.
And that's a good point to kind of bring, and I'll expand on that a minute. I'll continue my explanation of the site structure here in a minute. But what I'm seeing, in addition to, hopefully, I can get through all these kind of the changes that I've seen in the last 6 or 8 months. But structure right now is more important than content itself. In other words, there's kind of two levels of structure that I'm seeing that there's site structure, so an entire site architecture or structure of the entire site, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And then there's page structure. Well, remember, Google doesn't rank websites. Google ranks web pages,
Yep.
okay? But a website's authority, and I don't mean Moz's domain authority, but a website's authority, topical authority, entity authority, etc., that has an influence, a significant influence on a page's ability to rank. So you always want to start with first page structure, right? Because that's the document of the page that you want to rank, right? So you want to start with a well-structured page. And I just brought up those kind of the elements or components of a page. Again, starting with the URL, because that's the first thing the Googlebot sees, then the SEO title, meta description, H1, and then the remaining titles or headings, okay? And the media as well. Content is the lowest on the list of priorities there. Like, so in other words, in the structure of a page, all those elements that I just listed are kind of the biggest levers that you can pull.
Yep.
And content is only like the deciding factor. If for Google, if you have two similarly optimized pages that are structured well, then that's when kind of content, well, there's really two variables that come into play then. Number one, content. Number two, site structure. That's why I was saying there's page structure and site structure.
Yep.
So on a page level, we have to make sure that we're optimizing the pages properly. And I'll get back to the kind of topic terms in a minute versus keywords in a moment. But remember, a page is part of a website. So a website has to be structured properly too. And now to come back to your point, which you just mentioned, Peter, was with the explosion or the advent of AI writing assistants, there has been this proliferation or explosion of content on the web that the Google servers can't keep up with crawling and indexing all of this content because it's exponentially increasing. And so one of the things that Google's done is kind of throttled its crawl budget. You know, in other words, it's reduced the amount of time and resources that it will allow its bots to crawl a website. And so efficiency is key, right? So in order for us to, that's why I say page structure, we want to start there because that's what we're trying to ultimately rank as a page, not a website. But in order for the page to be crawled effectively, the site needs it. And for two of those variables that I talked about, one being content and the other one being site structure, that has an influence on, that are kind of deciding factors of whether or not a page can rank. In order, the page itself, Googlebot can crawl the content of that particular page, but it also has to look at the entire structure of the site to get that kind of holistic picture of what the site is about. And so unless the site is structured properly, if it's structured poorly, then it's likely not going to be fully crawled. And so Google doesn't create kind of, at least not in the first attempt at crawling the site, it's not going to create kind of a cohesive, sharp image or picture of what the site is about, if that makes sense. It'll be kind of a fragmented picture of what the site is about.
Would another way to put that would be to present the least amount of resistance to Googlebot when it approaches your site.
Great way. That's a great way to state it. Yeah.
Great.
And so again, that can be accomplished through site structure itself and internal linking, et cetera.
Yep. Absolutely.
So, because I don't want to go too far down in the weeds with this. We're going to have limited time, but so there's page structure, which is incredibly important, and understanding the content and the topic itself, and then there's the site structure and how to kind of organize topics and supporting content within the site. Silo architecture can help with that, internal linking, all of that. But as far as like optimizing between topics and or keywords, is that, we always know as or always have as SEOs, we've always kind of optimized for keywords. As I mentioned, we would create the top level page with the broadest term, and then we would create supporting content and usually place it within a category that was named for that same top level term as well. And then through internal linking and all that, we would link up to that top level page, etc. What I've found though is that Google has, since it's kind of really fully adopted topic, the algorithm has shifted from keywords to topics or entities, is that now that can cause cannibalization. And so I wanted to get to this point because this is what I see the biggest right now, more problems in the SEO industry, even from really experienced SEOs who come to me and ask me for guidance or help or to audit, take a look at some projects of theirs and because they're having issues.
Yep.
And I go in and I see that why is because for years, like I said, for the last 10 years of my career, we would optimize the way I just described. But now, because Google has shifted away from keywords into topics, if you have multiple pages or more than one page, two or more pages on a same domain that are targeting in the SEO title a similar search query or a similar phrase, a similar term, that actually now is causing cannibalization issues. For those that aren't aware what cannibalization is, that means when you have two pages or two documents on the same domain that are targeting same or similar titles, okay, SEO titles. Then it basically they're competing with each other, and Google doesn't know which one is the one that I should be promoting in the search results. Google doesn't know
because it provides resistance.
That's exactly right. You're creating resistance for the bot.
Yeah.
And so why I bring all this up is because for my entire SEO career up until the last 6 or 8 months, that was best practice, right? We would optimize for top level term. We'd go collect all the supporting keywords, and we would publish content on the same domain targeting all of those supporting keywords. And we would kind of like create topic coverage by just blanketing the site with as many documents, pages, as we could, targeting all of the supporting keywords within a particular topic. Okay. Now that it's 180 degrees has turned around to where that is actually causing cannibalization.
Yep.
And so one of the ways that I've been able to kind of help to reduce this or to reverse cannibalization problems is either trimming or pruning content from the site itself and moving supporting content from a domain on the same domain to external domains, external blogs. So, for example, taking supporting content from a silo, and instead of having it published on the same domain, you can take that supporting content, remove it from the domain, and publish it on a branded blogger, Tumblr, WordPress, Weebly, etc., Google site, all these different things that you can publish the content on, because now you're still promoting the same content, you're still targeting the same keywords, but you're doing it on external domains, so they're not competing with similarly titled documents on the same domain.
Just on that topic, bucket sites fit into that category, I take it?
Exactly. Preferably branded. So bucket sites, cloud pages would work. But more, it's in my opinion, if they're shouldn't be added as supporting content, but as branded content, if that makes sense.
Gotcha. Yeah. Perfect.
So topics versus keywords, like I said. So the shift here is how do we understand which keywords are what is a keyword and what is a topic? And one of the ways that you can kind of identify this is or start to learn about this is pay attention to Google. Like if you do some searches in Google, for example, for the search queries or keywords associated with your industry, pay attention to what Google bolds in the search results that it considers are synonyms for your target search query or your seed search query.
Nice.
And start to create a list of that, because and again, I do this manually. I know that might seem crazy because there are tools and stuff out there, but I like to visually see it. So like I work in the tree service industry for my own SEO agency, my local SEO agency. And what I discovered was, for 10 years, I've been working in the tree service industry, doing SEO almost exclusively. And Tree service is the primary keyword. That's also the primary Google business category. Okay, for tree service contractor. So it's tree service, capital T, little s, tree service. Okay, this is what's important. Pay attention to Google business categories for local SEO. Look at how they're capitalized. Like, that's the difference between keyword optimization and topic optimization. Is capitalization makes a difference, and I mean that. So in keywords, we always optimize the first letter of every word when we're optimizing for keywords.
Of course.
When you're optimizing for topics, you want to pay it. You don't want to do that because that's how you change it from separate keywords into a topic, right?
Yes.
Separate words that are combined are keywords that are combined. But when you have proper capitalization, then now you're telling Google that you want to optimize for a particular topic versus a set of words, if that makes sense. So again, if you look at Google business categories, they're not, the first letter of every word is not capitalized. It's always proper case in that it's the first letter of the first word that's capitalized, and then whatever remaining words are in that Google business category, they're lowercase. One of the ways that you can determine this is, like I said, you can just go do some manual searches for the top level terms in your whatever industry you're researching and start looking at the bolded keywords in the search results. That's what Google considers are synonyms of that search query, that phrase. And so you can start to compile a list. And so I bring this up because when I was talking about tree services, tree service is the primary business category for tree service contractors. But if I go into Google and I type in tree service and I look at all the bolded keywords, I only get about 4 or 5 that are synonyms with tree service itself. But then I can go look at tree trimming and do the same thing: tree removal, tree pruning, tree felling, tree maintenance. And believe it or not, all these years I've been doing SEO work for tree service contractors, I never knew this, but tree maintenance, so capital T, little m, it has the broadest topic coverage in the tree service industry. So in other words, if I go in and I collect all the bolded keywords in the search results, when I put in tree maintenance as my seed term or seed search query, I have like 15 rows of additional supporting keywords that are considered synonymous with tree maintenance, tree service being one of them. So that is the kind of keyword that I should be or the topic that I should be optimizing for. Right?
It
has the broadest coverage. And is there an opportunity for me to share my? Oh, it's a podcast, so that's not
going to. No, you can. Because it goes to YouTube as well, and we'll just describe what you're presenting on the screen.
If I can just very quickly, let me see if I can show this real fast.
Just so up arrow. There you go. Perfect. Yep.
I'm going to point out just a couple of things real quick, and I don't have a lot of time here, but I do want to show something. So this is just kind of an example of what I mean.
Nice.
If this top row here is the top level seed term or topic search query. And then these are the supporting or associated terms with each one of these seed terms. And you can see tree maintenance has the largest topic coverage, the broadest topic coverage out of all these different terms. And so what's interesting is I found that if I optimize for my top level pages for a tree service contractor for tree maintenance, then I can actually rank for all of these different keywords for one page.
Right. Very nice. Yeah.
Which is much better than trying to rank for a keyword and where you're limited to only being able to rank for that particular search query or close variants.
Yeah.
So go ahead. I was just going to point out kind of I'm going to demonstrate this.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
So here I want to show you some points here about optimizing for. So I've been doing a lot of testing with this, guys, over the last several, for 8 months now or so. I've been testing with optimizing this way, and you can see, like, for example, this one right here is I've optimized this page here for tree maintenance, Newburgh, Kentucky. By the way, these are mine up here as well. I'm just pointing this one page out, so you can see that this is optimized for tree maintenance, Newburgh, Kentucky. And so if I search for tree service, you can see it's ranked there for that. If I search for tree removal, what do we see here? We see tree maintenance right there. If I look for tree trimming, whoops, let me fix that. Okay, tree trimming. What do we see here? We see it ranked for tree maintenance. Okay. I could go through here and go through tree pruning, tree cutting, stump grinding, land clearing. It's save time. Just you
Yep.
guys can go do this on your own. You'll see that this Felling Pro page right here that's optimized for tree maintenance
Right.
ranks for every one of those search queries.
Which gets back to the topic, which is what you've been
Exactly.
discussing.
So,
Yep.
so the point that I'm trying to make here is that we are optimizing for topics. We can end up ranking one page for all of those all the keywords associated with that topic. And so that is one of the biggest things that I've seen is the biggest issues that I've seen is cannibalization, because there's too many pages on the same domain that are targeting similar keywords. Now,
Yeah.
very quickly, I would like to just explain how I kind of discovered this. I run Google ads for some of my clients, not all of them, but some of them.
Yeah.
So Google search ads. And if anybody here has ever or runs or currently runs or ever has run Google search ads, you know that what used to be square brackets around keyword would be, it's called an exact match type. So
Yep.
if you were to, like, for example, tree service, if I was to create what's called a single keyword ad group and put exact match brackets, so square brackets around tree service, and say,
Yep.
I only want my ads to appear for this particular search query and no deviations, just that query. Google would only show my ad for people searching for tree service with no modifications, or
Yep.
at what Google would consider close variant.
Right.
So the difference would be like tree service or tree services. So singular versus plural. Google would show my ad. If I said tree service only, square brackets, Google would show my ad for tree service and tree services.
Right.
That's it. Well, about 8 months ago, if you were running Google ads, you started exact match campaign types, you would notice that didn't happen anymore. Google would show your ad for tree service, tree services, tree cutting, tree removal, tree trimming, tree pruning,
Wow.
tree service near me, like all these different keywords
Wow.
all of a sudden, and you're going, well, what the hell? So that's when I started kind of like trying to figure out what was going on. And that's where I started to learn that Google has shifted its algorithm away from keywords to topics, because all of the different keywords that Google will now show your ad for, even though you have exact match type around a particular search query,
Wow.
Google is now, even in its ad platform, is now
Yeah.
displaying your ad for all of the keywords associated with that topic that it thinks is associated with that topic instead of a keyword. So therefore, that's why exact match types aren't being honored
Actually,
anymore.
just on that point, I've been doing some YouTube advertising, and 3 months ago, they removed the ability to add keywords to target in your advertising on YouTube. And now all you do, you're not going to believe this, is you put in topics that you would like to rank for and allow the AI to determine which videos should be presented.
That's right.
Your ad should be presented to relative to the topics that you enter. And I've been advised by these people, you put in between only 5 to 10 topics. You can put 100 in, but it's only 5 to 10. And from what I understand, the least you put in, the more work the AI does to not clone, but discover those keywords related to that topic. So wow, yeah.
And so that's those the biggest things that I've seen is within the semantic web, and as Google continues to kind of go further and further into the semantic web, is, like I said, it's shifted. If Google has shifted away from keywords to topics in its ad platform, which is where 90 or 95% of its revenue comes from, that it's adopted that throughout the rest of its ecosystem. And so that's why I'm saying, like, as soon as I started recognizing this in ads platform, I started trying to figure out why. And that's when I started to discover all of this. And so optimizing for topics is kind of the shift that you need to make to be successful in SEO. One last thing I want to talk about, and then I'd love to do this again with you, Peter, to pick back up, because I'm talking about some on-page stuff today. Maybe the next time we can talk about some off-page signals in the semantic web, or in AI, how that kind of affects everything as well. Because I have some pretty strong opinions about backlinks right now, and how backlinks, I think, are actually becoming more important. 2 years ago, I thought that backlinks were going to become less and less important in the semantic web, but I actually have done 180 degrees on that. I believe that backlinks actually are becoming more important now, because it's a validation signal. So hopefully we can save that for another discussion. But what I would like to briefly mention before I wrap up with you, Peter, is that I started hammering this, harping on this to my own to the semantic mastery audience several weeks ago, because I think this is kind of an easy way to conceptualize what we should be optimizing for in the semantic web. And there's three legs, or three major optimization points that I think we should be doing for the semantic web. And that is, number one, entity association. So forcing Google to recognize associations between entities. Okay, that's number one. Number two is relevance. And number three is corroboration, or data validation. So if we can always kind of keep those three things in mind, right? How do we force Google to recognize entity association? Okay. Relevance. How can everything that we do be relevant and support, getting signals from other relevant sources and sending relevant signals? And then lastly, corroboration, or data validation. How can we help to constantly reinforce data on the semantic web to validate information? And so those are the three things that I recommend kind of optimizing for in the semantic web. And AI can help with a lot of that.
I think we should get back together maybe in a week or so, and I'd like to talk more about generative search, and which fits in really nice with everything you've been discussing. Like that's why I've taken a bit time away from SEO and focused on AI, so I can get my head into what the hell is going on. And particularly now with generative search close to appearing, I've got some pretty clear ideas on how we can work with that, which I'll leave for another time. But I'll just show you quickly. I'll just share my screen. This will only take a couple of minutes. Share my screen. Screen, window, entire screen. This one, thank you. So this is just a project I completed with Evo 4. And where's that? So this is what Evo 4 is producing right now.
Nice.
And what's really nice, that it was an error on my part, but that is all pure AI created from one search term. And it's got, I think with your help we can improve upon this. But what's really cool is I'll show you this. Like, I'm trying to present the least amount of resistance to Google from our previous conversation. If I can just find this, where is it? So that's the results in Google. So you got to be happy with that.
Yeah.
So that's very nice. I'll just try.
That's right. And that's a good point. Core Web Vitals and all of that is important, because if you optimize for that too, you're basically telling Google, like, hey, I'm trying to make it easier on you.
Exactly.
And that's like you said, reducing resistance. So
yep. Cool. You're not going to believe this. Oh, there we are. Hang on. I've lost my browser with you on it, so I can't find
your red dot in the browser. If it's Chrome,
oh
you
my
should see a red dot.
Yeah. Typical. Anyway, that's fine. Bradley, thank you so much for your time, mate. So maybe we should connect in another week or two and continue this conversation, because we are in the most rapidly changing environment.
I agree.
That we could ever have anticipated. And I think the more we discuss it and share it with people, the better off we'll all be.
I totally agree with that. And I'd love to do this again so we can continue this discussion and talk about some off-page signals too, because I think that's really important.
Awesome. Okay, Bradley, thanks for your time, buddy. See you.
Okay, guys. Thank you.
Bye.